Hey everybody, welcome back. James here again with you. As always, make sure to hit that thumbs up button and subscribe if you haven't already. I think you're going to find this video very interesting because I'm going to hit on a topic that a lot of people don't really talk about, and it does happen, and I'm sure it does happen because it's happened to me, and I want to help a lot of you guys out there shooting and see what that is, so keep watching. Let's get into it. A lot of you may remember in a previous video that I mentioned that I was going to make a video about why the first shot flyer happens in mostly PCP airguns. And I'm sure it happens in the brake barrels, but it hasn't happened to me yet. And I come up with a list of reasons why, of course, that I think that flyers happen for one, and that we can cross off the list. That way we can study on certain areas as to why they happen. So, number one is misaligned or damaged pellets. And that is why I switched to the CARM magazine over the standard factory Marauder style carousel magazine, because each pellet has its own hole, so it does not get damaged by a pellet probe. Next is the velocity issue or PSI issue, whether it's a drop or a spike in pressure or PSI, and what happens to that. Well, depending on what gun it is and how it's made, it could affect the pellet in the barrel as it's going out of the barrel, to your target, of course, especially being the first shot. So with that said, the first shot could also be because the barrel is clean or dirty at the time of you getting it out and shooting it. Whether last time you cleaned it, first time cleaned it, it's been dirty, who knows. And then another thing is the temperature outside. So if you're just taking your gun from indoor temperature to outside temperature, depending on what that is, and then shooting it, it could have another effect on it, because again, the air pressure temperature in the air cylinder on the storage of the gun itself. So all these things play a huge factor whether or not you're going to get a flyer or not. And if you don't, that's great. But me personally, I usually get about one flyer in the first of a group a lot of the times. But it's because a lot of things, of course, that's why I made this list. So I want to cross out the reason why these happen, and I'm going to be using my Umarex Origin in this video with the side shot footage to show you that. And again, my Origin is set about 3 turns in from back all the way out, and I'm shooting the Crosman Premier hollow points in this video with the CARM magazine, and they're going around 930 feet per second at the muzzle at starting pressure of 2900 psi. But none of that is really relevant, because no matter what I do, I still get that first shot flyer. And so what we know is we can start by, again, the misaligned damaged pellets. I'm using the CARM mag, so that is crossed off the list. The next is the velocity issue or PSI issue. Well, again, that being said, the gun is unregulated. So chronographing my data, there is no big spike, no huge drop in a certain amount of shots. I know this. I know exactly what curve to shoot in. So a big spread could cause your flyer, because, a certain number it hits via PSI or velocity wise could cause that pellet to go out of control. So next constant that I want to take care of is a clean or dirty barrel. So I took a couple groups, couple shots here, I should say, first shots on purpose, to see if I can replicate the flyer. And again, I cleaned the bore, and as you can see, the flyer is exactly in the same exact spot on the targets, 2 of them. So that we know that the clean bore is out of the question, because the flyer still happens no matter if the barrel is dirty or clean. And it's more consistent in the clean barrel, as you can see there. So with, again, going through all my list here, I left the gun outside before doing my testing too. So the gun has been to the outside temperature, or whatever it was that time of testing. So that was knocked out. So the last thing is how the gun is made. And I didn't tell anybody this during the whole list because I wanted to save the best for last. So I have found, for one, depending on how the gun is made, you need to get the trigger system down. And that could be the flyers in between the shooting of groups, which that's what it's caused by. If you have a flyer usually and everything else is knocked out of this list that I have found for flyers, it's usually the trigger pull. It's not consistent, or it's not breaking at the same exact point. And as I found in the past, the Air Venturi trigger, which is the same as the Origin, does not break very constantly. And you have to get that trigger breakdown just right for you not to get flyers in the set of groups. And if you guys seen my tuning videos with my Origin, you could see, and my pellet testing, you could see that I pretty much got the trigger down during shooting. But it's the actual first shot flyer that gets me. So you can see there again, the first one out of the group starts high in a clean barrel. So now getting to the point of the gun, the way it's made, I had the same issue, believe it or not, with my Air Venturi Avenger, and there's a reason for that. The way the gun is made is when you air it up, there's so many different chambers that the air has to pass through, and that same type of manifold, the way the gun is built in the receiver, that certain areas of the gun, are not in equilibrium with each other. So how do you do that? How do you level it out? Well, a lot of you know that this Origin has the EPT, or Ever Pressure Ready system in here, which is a little piston that builds up pressure when you air it up, and it keeps your shots consistent. So what you have to do is, to knock out that first shot flyer, believe it or not, in this gun, is that you have to keep that pressure consistent. You're probably thinking, what are you talking about? Well, if you leave the gun outside, you knocked out all this stuff on my list that I found that causes flyers, and you take that first shot and it's off from the last point of aim that you had, don't worry about it. It's kind of like, just joining your enemy instead of fighting with them the whole time. And you'll see why I say this. Shoot and watch where it lands, cock the gun again, and let it sit. And as you know, a lot of you heard me talk about this in the winter time. I have to let my gun sit because you have to let the air pass through all the passages in the gun itself to get to where it needs to be. And if you let this gun sit long enough, that little valve in here, the Ever Ready pressure system piston, the booster, levels itself out is better than just repeating pulling the trigger, cocking the hammer, pulling the trigger. And what that causes is the pressure again is so leveled out that this gun is almost regulated for like 15 shots. So guys, in short, even if you go through a whole list of things that you think that could be wrong, come to find out it could be just the way the gun is built. And again, how do I find that out? Well, again, I left the gun outside, I tried everything, and then I boiled down to, shooting the gun, taking a break, and then shooting it again to see what happens. And again, with the way this thing is built and the way the ever-ready pressure system is in here, it levels itself out. It's built to do that, but they don't tell you that. They tell you that it's, you know, it helps you air up the gun and all that, but it also has air on the opposite end of it. So with it always leveling the pressure out on each end, this piston causes an equilibrium in the gun. But if you're not timing it just right, you'll always have that first shot flyer. So anyways, guys, I hope you got something from this video. And again, every gun is different, so this was just a regular, you know, generalized idea of why the first shot is happening, the flyer is happening in this origin. So I hope you got something from this video. As always, hit that like button and subscribe below. Hope to see you on the next one. Thanks again.